He was my brother, my blood, my hero, until he slept with my wife. We used to play football in the garden when we were kids. I worshipped him. He was everything I wanted to be: strong, talented, adored. And then he became the man who destroyed my family. That man was Ryan Giggs, football legend, national hero, the face of loyalty on the pitch. But off the pitch, he lived a lie that lasted nearly a decade. He betrayed the one person who believed in him the most, his own brother, not just through words or silence, but by secretly sleeping with his brother's wife for 8 long years. It wasn't just an affair. It was a violation of blood, a scandal that shattered 2 families and a nation's faith. This is not a tabloid story. This is a story of legacy turned to ruin, of a man who could bend the world with a ball, but couldn't resist the thrill of betrayal behind closed doors. In the next 30 minutes, I won't just tell you what Ryan Giggs did. I'll show you how it felt to be the brother Rhodri, the man who watched the person he admired the most slowly become the one who broke him. So sit back, because this isn't just another cheating story. It's the anatomy of a double betrayal. And once you hear it, you'll never look at loyalty the same way again. If this story already has you holding your breath, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who still believes in family. Because not all betrayals come from strangers. Sometimes they wear your jersey. I never hated being Ryan Giggs' brother. At least, not in the beginning. When we were growing up in Cardiff, it was clear early on that Ryan was different. He had this presence even before fame touched him. He ran faster, scored cleaner, made the crowd cheer louder. I remember standing on the sidelines at age 10, watching people already call him the next George Best. And me? I was the quiet one, the kid who blended in, the other Giggs. But I didn't mind, because he was my brother, and I was proud of him. Our parents split when we were still young. It was tough, especially for Mom. She worked long hours, juggled bills, raised us the best she could. And through it all, Ryan was the shining light, a football prodigy, the boy everyone believed would make it out. When he signed with Manchester United, the entire neighborhood lit up like it was Christmas. Ryan was just 17. I was 14. I still remember hugging him at the train station as he left for Manchester. He looked back, smiled, and said, "Don't worry, bro. I'll take care of all of us." And he did. As he rose to fame, the money started coming in. We moved to a nicer place. Mom didn't have to worry about bills anymore. Suddenly, we were part of the Giggs legacy. But here's what no one tells you about being the brother of a star. You don't just live in their shadow, you become part of it. Everything you do, everything you try to become, it's always compared to him. I became the fun brother, the reckless one. I bounced between jobs: bartender, promotions, a short stint managing local football. I had a name, but it wasn't really mine. It was always Rhodri, Ryan's brother. And yet, through all that, I still defended him. When tabloids accused him of womanizing, I brushed it off. When he missed family dinners, I covered for him. Because deep down, I still believed he loved us. But he loved me. Then came Natasha. She was stunning, sharp-tongued, and nothing like the girls I'd known. We met at a Club Classic Manchester night. 1 tequila, 1 dance, and suddenly I was hooked. We started dating. It was messy at first, then settled into something serious. She moved in, we got married, had kids, built what I thought was a life. Ryan came to the wedding. He gave a speech short, charismatic, classic hymn. To Rhodri and Natasha, he said, "May your love be as strong as our family." The crowd cheered. I believed every word. Looking back now, I wonder, was he already sleeping with her by then? Was I standing there smiling while they were sharing secrets behind my back? More than love, I wanted loyalty. And I thought I had both for my wife and my brother. But you can only see the cracks when the glass shatters. In hindsight, there were signs. Little things I ignored. Like the way Natasha's phone always seemed to light up when Ryan texted. Or how she would defend him when I joked about his ego. Or that one time just once I saw Ryan watching her a little too long during a family barbecue. But I laughed it off. Because who does that? Who betrays their brother like that? Turns out Ryan Giggs does. The legend. The icon. The man with the armband. But before he was all that, he was just my big brother. And I would have taken a bullet for him. They say hindsight is 20/20. But when you're living in it, when the betrayal is still just a shadow, you don't see red flags. You see familiar colors and convince yourself they mean safety. The truth is, my mind caught the signs. But my heart refused to read them. It started small. Ryan was always around. Not in a weird way. At first, he was my brother, after all. He'd drop by on random evenings, sometimes without calling. Just wanted to see the boys, he'd say, ruffling my son's hair like an uncle should. But then Natasha would light up. Every time, brighter than when I walked through the door. I noticed how she started dressing up more when she knew Ryan would visit. Not overly, just sharper, cleaner lines, fresh lipstick, perfume subtle, but I could smell it when I kissed her cheek. There was this one dinner family, nothing special. I stepped out to take a call, left them alone at the table for barely 5 minutes. When I returned, the air felt different. They weren't touching, they weren't talking, but they weren't normal either. Like something had passed between them and vanished before I walked in. Another time, I forgot my phone at home during a work gig. When I came back to get it, I heard Ryan and Natasha talking in the kitchen. Their voices were low, too low. I walked in fast, trying not to think, and they jumped apart like guilty schoolkids. "Everything all right?" I asked. Ryan smiled too quickly, just helping Natasha with the wine opener. The wine bottle sat already open on the counter. I remember that detail because it stuck. It didn't make sense. But I didn't ask, because asking meant opening a door I wasn't ready to walk through. Then came the business trips. Ryan would call Natasha when he was abroad. I used to find it sweet until I realized he rarely called me. Once, he FaceTimed our house while I was out getting groceries. My son answered. Natasha took the phone to another room. She was on the call for 15 minutes. When I came back, she told me it was just Ryan checking in. I nodded, but a piece of me cracked. Why did they need 15 minutes to talk without me? Looking back, I know the moment that changed everything. We were at Mom's birthday party. Everyone was there, cousins, aunts, Ryan in his best designer suit. He gave Natasha a gift. Not me, not Mom, not even the kids. Her. He handed her a little white box and said, "Saw this in Milan. Thought it'd suit you." She opened it. A silver bracelet. Delicate. Expensive. She gasped, touched his arm, and whispered something I couldn't hear. But I saw her eyes. And I saw his. That wasn't family. That was something else. Something dangerous. Something I wasn't ready to name yet. I should have said something. Should have yelled, asked, accused. But instead, I smiled. Like a fool. Because I was raised to trust my brother. And I married someone I thought would never humiliate me like that. You don't prepare for war when you think you live in peace. But I was already losing battles. And I didn't even know it yet. It didn't take a confession. It didn't take a fight. It took a mistake. One careless moment One forgotten device, and my entire world cracked in half. It was a Thursday. Nothing remarkable. Natasha had left her iPad charging in the kitchen, as usual. She never used it, mostly for watching shows with the kids. That day, she was rushing to pick up groceries before dinner. She'd left in a hurry, and for some reason, the screen kept lighting up. Notifications, messages. I wasn't trying to spy. I wasn't even suspicious that morning. But something about the way the screen glowed. It felt like a signal I wasn't supposed to ignore. So I opened it. And there it was. A message from R. Missed you last night. Still smell you on my hands. My stomach turned. I clicked the thread. Hundreds of messages, photos, voice notes, all coded with just one initial R. But the language, the tone, the rhythm, I knew it instantly. It was Ryan. I scrolled back weeks, back months, until I hit a message dated over 7 years ago. I can't believe I'm doing this to him. I feel like I'm breaking my own bones. We're not hurting him, Nat. We're just loving each other. Quietly. I don't remember breathing after that. Just scrolling. And seeing the past rewritten message by the two people who meant most to me. They spoke of weekends away when I thought she was visiting her cousin. They shared jokes about me. They called me naive. They even planned how to meet without raising suspicion. Ryan once wrote, "He trusts both of us." That's the scary part. I found pictures too, hidden in a folder titled Yoga Retreat 2016. Except they weren't doing yoga. They were in a hotel bed. Her hair spread across his chest, his arm around her waist. Their smiles smug, relaxed like a couple on honeymoon. I stared at those images, not just as a husband, but as a brother. Because something inside me, something sacred collapsed. It wasn't just cheating. It wasn't even just betrayal. It was devastation by design. 8 years. While I held my children. While I worked 2 jobs to pay bills. While I defended him in the press. While I loved her blindly. They were together. Secretly. Relentlessly. Shamelessly. When Natasha came home that evening, I didn't speak. I couldn't. I just showed her the iPad. She froze. Didn't cry. Didn't deny. She sat down, head in her hands, and whispered, "I didn't want you to find out like this." Like this? I wanted to scream. Throw the device. Break anything that would match the destruction inside me. But instead, I just asked one question. Was it ever love with me? She didn't answer. And that silence was the final confirmation. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a second. I sat in the living room, staring at the iPad as if it might rewrite itself. As if by some miracle, the messages would vanish and I'd wake up in the life I used to believe in. But morning came. And with it, the truth didn't fade. It settled deeper, like poison into bone. Ryan called me around noon. "Yo, you all right?" He asked, casually, like it was just another Friday. My hands trembled. I could feel my pulse pounding through my teeth. "Come over," I said flat. "Everything okay?" "Just come." Alone. He showed up 20 minutes later. Same swagger. Same smirk. Wearing that familiar aftershave I used to copy when we were teenagers. When he walked in, I didn't offer tea. I didn't ask how he was. I tossed the iPad on the table between us. He looked at it, then looked at me. And in that pause, in that tiny flicker of hesitation in his eyes, I knew. He didn't ask what it was. He didn't deny anything. He just exhaled, slow, like he'd been holding that breath for years. "All right," he said. "You found out. That's all. You found out." Like this was some misplaced key, not the murder of my entire life. I asked him one question. The only one I could get out. Why? He ran a hand through his hair, paced a little, like he was thinking hard. Then he said, "It wasn't supposed to happen, mate. But once it did, I couldn't stop. Mate." He called me mate. Not brother, not Rodri, just mate. He talked like a man caught with his hand in a till, not someone who'd burned down his own bloodline. "You and Natasha were already having issues," he said. "She came to me. We connected. It was real, man. Real." I laughed. A hollow, dead laugh that didn't belong to the man I used to be. "You connected?" I said. "You connected with my wife while I was changing nappies and breaking my back for this family?" He stayed quiet. So I kept going. "I stood beside you through everything, Ryan. Through your scandals, your lies, your ego. And this is what you do to me?" He said, "I didn't mean to hurt you." And I snapped. "You didn't mean to hurt me. You were inside my house, eating my food, playing with my kids, and *****ing my wife." He looked down, didn't defend himself, didn't even apologize. That's what broke me more than anything. He didn't even think I deserved a real sorry. I kicked him out, not with fists, not with screaming. I just pointed to the door and said the one sentence I never thought I'd say to my own brother. "You're not welcome in my life anymore." He hesitated, opened his mouth like he had one more excuse to give. But he must have seen in my face that it was over. He left, and I never let him back in again. After he left, the house felt bigger, but not in a good way. The walls echoed more. The clocks ticked louder. Even the sound of my son breathing in his sleep felt distant, like I was drifting further and further from the life I once had. I didn't scream, didn't throw furniture, didn't smash the iPad. That's the thing people don't understand about betrayal. It doesn't always erupt. Sometimes it seeps, like gas leaking into a room. You don't see it. You don't smell it. Until suddenly, you're choking in a silence that won't let go. Natasha moved out a week later. I didn't stop her. She didn't beg. She didn't cry. She just packed her things and whispered, "I never wanted to hurt you." And I couldn't even look at her, because the woman I used to love had become a stranger wearing my wife's skin. She left our son with me, said she'd visit every other weekend. But deep down, I knew that rhythm wouldn't last. Because when people choose their own desire over family, they don't return for the cleanup. They just disappear. The tabloids got wind of it fast. Gig's love triangle, brother's betrayal scandal, Ryan's affair with sister-in-law exposed. Suddenly, I wasn't just a man betrayed. I was a headline. Strangers sent me sympathy messages. Others called me weak. Some asked for interviews, offered money for my side. I turned them all down, because no article, no quote, no podcast episode could capture the way it felt to eat breakfast alone with my son and have him ask, "Why doesn't Mummy live here anymore?" Or the night he cried for her, and I couldn't explain the kind of pain she caused without destroying what little image he still had left of her. I started therapy. At first, I hated it. Sitting in a chair, talking about feelings I didn't have words for. But week after week, I started saying things out loud, like, "I don't hate Ryan. I hate what he took from me." And I wasn't just grieving a marriage. I was grieving the version of myself that believed people were better than this. Some nights, I slept on the floor because the bed felt too big, too clean, too untouched. I lost weight, friends, my job temporarily at least. But most of all, I lost trust. In blood, in love, in everything I once thought was uncheckable. But time is a strange thing. It doesn't heal, but it teaches. You learn to walk without flinching, to breathe through the panic, to answer your child's questions without falling apart. One morning, I woke up, looked in the mirror, and saw a man who wasn't broken anymore. Just changed, scarred, but still standing. There's a point in every story where the noise stops. The accusations, the tears, the silence, and all that's left is you and your scars, you and the mirror, you and the question. Now what? Months passed. Ryan went on with his life. He kept doing pundit gigs, attending events, shaking hands like nothing ever happened. His fans stayed. His sponsors barely blinked. That used to enrage me, because while I was picking up the pieces of my broken family, he was still being celebrated for goals he scored a decade ago. And Natasha? She moved in with him. Eventually, quietly. The world didn't seem to care, but I did. At least I used to. I spent so long thinking I needed justice, closure, something dramatic, final, clean. But you don't get that in real life. There's no court for betrayal of the soul. No compensation for years lost to a lie. You just get moments. One night, I was helping my son with homework. He stopped mid-sentence, looked up and asked, "Dad, do you miss Mom?" I didn't lie. I said, "Sometimes. But missing someone doesn't mean they were good for you." He nodded, as if that made perfect sense. And in that moment, I realized something. I wasn't broken anymore. Not because I healed, but because I had finally accepted the scar as part of me, not the definition of me. I don't talk to Ryan. I don't talk about him. He lives in a chapter I've closed. A room in my past I locked, not out of hate, but out of peace. Forgiveness? Maybe, but not for them. I forgave myself for not seeing it sooner, for trusting too much, for loving the wrong people with everything I had. That's the hardest part of betrayal, not surviving it, but surviving yourself after it. People always assume revenge looks like fire, shattered windows, screaming, burned bridges. But sometimes the loudest revenge is silence. Sometimes the strongest act is walking away with your dignity intact. I didn't sue Ryan, didn't drag Natasha through the tabloids, didn't release the screenshots, the emails, the photos. I could have. I had enough to bury them both in public shame for years. But I chose not to, because I finally understood. When you fight filth with fire, you just end up burned. I had already lost my marriage. I wasn't going to lose my character too, so I moved on. Not perfectly, not all at once, but with intention. I rebuilt my life around my son, made new routines, reclaimed my peace, and slowly I stopped waking up with their names in my chest, stopped replaying those conversations, stopped writing speeches in my head I'd never deliver. The power they had over me, it dissolved, not because they changed, but because I did. To anyone listening to this right now, if you've been betrayed, not just by a partner, but by someone you trusted like blood, you're not alone. I know what it feels like to question your worth, to look in the mirror and wonder, was I really that blind? Was any of it ever real? Let me tell you something. It doesn't matter if they regret it. It doesn't matter if the world ever hears your side. What matters is that you stand back up without needing applause, without seeking revenge, without dragging their names through the dirt. Because when you walk away clean, when you rebuild what they tried to destroy, that's how you win. If this story touched something in you, if you've ever survived a betrayal that tore your world apart, comment below. Share your story. You're not alone. And if you believe healing is stronger than revenge, like this video, subscribe to Lies Unveiled, and stay with us for more stories and uncover the truth behind the lies. Because here, we don't just expose betrayal, we grow from it.